My first question is why? And that's not in a narky way or anything. It's just, what are your reasons for being here? Because it won't be for yield.
Welcome to the Buying a House in Japan podcast. Today, we have a very, very actively sought after guest, Tracey Northcott, the Minpaku queen. We've known Tracey for almost 2 years now, and we're really excited to finally have her on the podcast. Welcome, Tracey, to the Buying a House in Japan podcast.
Oh, always such a pleasure to hang out with you guys. Like, honestly, you throw the best parties and you're so fun. So thank you for inviting me.
Who are you, and how the heck did you end up where you are managing all these Airbnbs? I know that you have such a cool entrepreneurial background.
Yeah. Well, I've lived in Japan 25 years. I first came to Japan in 87, probably longer than you guys have been alive. I was at high school, actually, and I did Japanese at high school, and I did Japanese at university as well, along with my science degree. I'm an organic synthetic chemist by training, which of course I don't use at all anymore. I tried to do Japanese together with chemistry at University of Queensland. I had to run from one end of campus to the other in between lectures because they were never designed to go together. So I really just stayed in the science for a while. I worked as a chemist in a laboratory. I was a terrible scientist. I blew myself up regularly. And so then I saw my first computer when I was in third year university. Smartphones didn't even exist when I was at college. Yes, I'm old. And my mind was blown. And so after chemistry, it was a bit too old fuddy-duddy for me, and it was very male-centric. It's like, I need to be doing something a bit more interesting. So I retrained in IT. I did a postgraduate certificate in sort of IT management, which yes, these days it would be like Scrum and all those things that never existed. And so then I came to Japan to work with my brother, who had set up a software company in language learning, specifically language learning software on mobile devices. So we were doing dictionaries and front-end processors and fonts and input methods in Asia on small devices. We were the Apple Newton distributor for Japan. And so we were building software, running double byte and running fonts and handwriting recognition on a Newton. And then, of course, the Newton was killed. We did a few other different handheld devices, Palm Pilot, Scions, all those things. And then the smartphone came out. And then so we went, the Apple iPhone 1 came out in 2008. That was it. We were off to the races. So we've been doing that ever since. It's pretty passive income these days because it's dictionaries and like an engine, and it's just mainly keeping things up to date. But the thing about running a business, and what my brother gave me permission to do and encouraged me to do, is like, if you've got a side hustle, if you've got an idea, we have a fully fledged company here. Like, use it, go fast and break things, right? Like, try things, fail, whatever. And I was like, so this is my brother, my big brother, encouraging me. And I'm like, oh, I can do this. And also not being stuck in a sort of Japanese corporate environment very much helped. I've had a bar, I've had a wine bar, because I like drinking, we're Australian wine. I've done all sorts of side hustles along the way. And then after my son was born, I decided to rent a small apartment near my house so we could have family and friends come to visit. And it was like, I'll put it up on Airbnb. If I break even, I'm golden. Well,
that started it, huh?
And it was like, oh, the money was good. And it was wild, wild west. And the thing is, what I really loved was showing my town to inbounds. Like, I fell in love with Tokyo again and again and again, because every time people would come, they would come like with this like excitement and the wow. And it's like, and I would be able to help them.
Yeah. Top-notch recommendation, Tracey, like that kind of feedback. Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah, so it's just like I was able to help people enjoy my town and give them the benefit of my experience. And that felt really nice. I was like, I want more of this. I want more. So then we used the rental arbitrage model, which is a thing, but I didn't know it was a thing. I just sort of flew by the seat of my pants, and it was just did the next thing that was interesting, or the next right thing, or the next opportunity. I was just able to sort of grab that, and boom, here we are.
I'm curious, actually. A lot of our listeners are a little hesitant to make that jump. It seems like you went all in, and like, what was that kind of trigger for you? I know your brother was already in Japan. At what point were you like, okay, I'm not going back. I'm not living permanently in Australia. I'm living in Japan permanently.
It was never a long-term plan, Tucker. It was never a long-term thing. It was like, oh, it's going to come for 2 years. Let's get the company public. I mean, it was all these silly ideas. And then maybe I'll get a different job and be an expat and have the huge apartment. It was just reinventing based on what was happening. It was never planned. I have a very low risk tolerance, so I'm like, yeah, give it a go. Like, I'll try it. But then getting into the real estate bit, it was like, well, how much can I afford to lose every month? This apartment that I rented was like 120,000 a month, right? And it was like, if I don't get any bookings this month, I can pay that. I can cover that out of my wallet. And I wasn't like super leveraged and like everything has to work. It was like, well, what can I, baby steps. And then as that worked, okay, that gave me the confidence to do the next thing and then the next bit of growth and going, but don't bite off more than you can chew. Like, look about what you can afford to lose. Don't bet the farm ever. I never say that as an entrepreneur. Make calculated risks.
You've been starting businesses in Japan since early 90s. I was still in elementary school then. And I'm just curious because I've had frustrating moments starting. We have a KK in Tokyo now, and there's always complications with that. Taka and I are running it from abroad, so there's additional complications there. Do you still have those moments where you're like, why is Japan like this? Or like, okay.
Every day. But the thing about when you do set up a KK, tick every box. When you do your incorporation, when it asks you what is your planned business activities, tick all the boxes. If you do find another opportunity, you can pivot and you don't then have to go back to the scrivener and redraw the letters of incorporation to include that, because that's an extra cost. When you do it, when you incorporate, it's free to tick all the boxes. But if you have to go back, you have to pay a scrivener. Like, it's usually 50,000 yen just to do a change of business activities.
How do you deal with that frustration though? Or do you not, or do you just like 20 years in Japan, 25 years, like it's an acceptance thing, or like, I still get that reaction where I'm like,
Joey, say more about that. What specific frustrations are you seeing?
Online banking. Like, I could rant about online banking forever.
I can rant about online banking all day as well. I mean, retail banking is just so antiquated, and the KYC stuff is even worse. It's even more nanny state, like moving money in and out. It's like you get a call from the back and going, well, are you laundering money? It's like, come on, how about you go after the real money launderers and stop leaving us, leave us small business owners.
Small businesses.
There's a bunch of tax. Like, still don't understand the taxes and the different things. And then, like, we made a lot of money last year, so I got a big surprise and things like withholding taxes and whatever. But it's kind of like a shogunai. Like, I hire people to do that. That's not my zone of genius. I look at where I'm best spending my time, and that's making new business, making new money. And then I hire people who are much smarter than me, who speak much better Japanese than me, to fill in the pieces. So hire smart people who know how to set up an electricity account and how to But there's frustrations every day. Don't get me wrong. It's not like utopia. There's still a lot of things that I just bang my head going, what the hell?
You mentioned you started out with arbitrage. I think back in, I don't know, when it was 2012 to 15, all my friends in Tokyo, they were just renting apartments and re-renting it out. What was that like? It was very wild, wild west, it seems like. Airbnb was new. Can you kind of describe the environment and climate during that time?
Sure. It was very wild, wild west. And there were a lot of people doing it very, very badly, I will say. And so people would think, oh, this is an IT product. I just have to sort of manage the IT. It's like, no. I learned very early on that this is a human-based operation. You have a very big duty of care. People who stay in your apartment, who sleep under your roof, you have a duty of responsibility for them. And so that means not just safety, but cleanliness and all of those things. My job as a host is teaching people how to live like a local. It's not just like throwing people the keys and going, have at it. The people that were doing it badly were giving all of us a bad name, and they weren't educating their guests, because Japan is so different. Even how to use an air conditioner, how to use this, how to use that. We met every single guest early on so that we could make sure that they weren't knocking on the wrong door and causing problems for the neighborhood. That was the biggest problem that people had. They weren't giving the guest accurate information. And so these poor bewildered tourists were walking around with suitcases in the streets. And of course there was a backlash. The local people were going, who are all these people in my quiet little neighborhood? Of course, there's a lot of fear. They don't speak the language. What is it? So there was a lot of people doing it badly, which was unfortunate. However, when the licensing came in, it was announced in 2016. It was rolled out in June 2018. That day is etched into my memory. A lot of people just went, nah, too hard, not going to do it anymore, which was great for me and great for people who were taking it seriously, who were wanting to actually make a business out of it. But yeah, the things that people were doing were a bit unethical as well. They were renting apartments which are designed for low-income families, and they were renting them and then re-renting them, which I thought, oh, that's a bit gross. You should have a low footprint. You shouldn't be impacting your neighborhood. You should be bringing more abundance. Sorry, that's a very woo-woo word, but you should be bringing more abundance to your neighborhood rather than taking. I always believe you should be giving more than you should be taking. How I always run my businesses. But there were a lot of people who would just me
overnight.
And like, it's not just the neighborhood. They weren't treating the guests very well either. The guests were having a bad experience, which was unfortunate. And I guess I decided quite early on what my product was. I wasn't just selling an alternative to a hotel as a cheap accommodation. That wasn't my product. So I built my product around what I was actually selling. And that was a local experience in Tokyo. And so I did everything to make sure that that was a complete product and that my guests knew what they were buying before they arrived. But that was through trial and error, though. Like, you know, I made a ton of mistakes, and I usually learned from what mistakes other people made. And so you adapt and you realize what apartments are going to work, what apartments are not going to work, which neighborhoods are not going to be friendly. If you have to try and sneak people in, like past shops, I mean, that makes your guests feel uncomfortable.
Japanese people are always watching. I feel like there's always eyeballs everywhere Joey and I walk.
Always
like, people are like
always
pulling the curtains open.
Yeah. Oh, well, you look a bit shady, Tucker. That's why.
It's, you know, I get that sometimes. Look, Joey gets stopped at every airport, though. Let me just
when the government dropped the curtain and they imposed don't remember the name, the Minpaku law, and then all the individual ordinances. I've looked at some of that. We showed you a map I'm building a little bit before this podcast. So I've been sort of reading some of the different ordinances across Japan, and some of it to me seems a little bit like they all do it in a slightly different ways, and it's quite a complicated web of laws. Do you have any opinions on the rollout? So when it first came out, did it feel organized? What was that like?
So 2016 was when the law was passed, and because Airbnb lawyers were taking a victory lap because in so many other countries it has just been outlawed. So the Airbnb lawyers really worked hard and said, okay, well, this is a thing, so we need to make it a legal thing. And so they had to really negotiate with the existing hotels and operators and also communities about what would be an acceptable law that everyone could live with. And so federally, it came in as 180 days. So if you had a Minpaku license, that was the maximum that you could rent. And that was fine. That was clear. And then what they did was to appease all the different factions and all the different cities and all the different local communities. They said, we're going to allow them to add additional restrictions based on what is local on a case-by-case basis. And then some coups were a lot more strict because of the politics and, you know, community and whatever, and other ones were a bit more open. And so you have to really know which ones are open to Minpaku and which ones were not. And that was very unclear. But then the cities, each individual city, they took 2 years, right? Each individual city then could decide what was their particular rule, and based on zoning and their street, then enacting that was then left to the city officers, but the cities were never given extra manpower to deal with the influx. They weren't given extra resources. And so when the laws actually rolled out, which was June 2018, I think 5% of the applications that had been submitted had been processed. 5%. That was it. And that was because it was really daft things like, oh, on your documents, your name was in Romaji, and then this was in katakana, and then it was back and forth. So you had to then read like, oh, no, this is not particular. I had to go back. this is one of the frustrations which Joe and
Yes.
I were talking about before. So romaji and katakana, and then sometimes the katakana is done like this, and sometimes the katakana is done by that. Don't get me started about Japanese web design. So anyway, it was back and forth. And then so these poor, overworked, stressed city office people, they just want a simple life. That's why they join the civil servants, right? They were poor things. I felt so sorry for them. They were getting a lot of hate and a lot of frustration because they weren't really given very clear instructions. It's settled down a lot now. I think everyone knows what they're doing. But June 2018, Airbnb had basically said, well, bookings that you've already got, if you've got the applications in and you haven't been approved yet, that's okay. But then it came back that the government went no. So it was just changing on a day-to-day basis.
Follow-up question, then we can talk more about practical stuff with Airbnb. Let's assume the laws have to be there. We can't get rid of the laws 180 days, but would you organize them differently? Do you have any opinions there?
First of all, I'm a fan of regulations. And the reason I'm a fan of regulations is that because of that duty of care element. And I think one thing that the regulations do very well is make sure that it's safe, that you have exit lighting, that the fire department has come in to make sure that a building is safe for humans to inhabit. I think that's really important, especially as you guys work in Akia, there's some pretty horrendous, not fit for human inhabitants, right? So, but they're cheap. So that regulations is to stop people dying. I'm a big fan of that.
Fireproof curtains, for example.
All the things that you, as a commercial business, you should be doing anyway. It's stuff that we were doing before the change. How would I do it differently? Credit for people who are doing it well and having a fast track so that you don't have to go back to scratch every single time would be really helpful. Sometimes you have to be, especially if you're changing up to a ryokan license, having a building that's 10 minutes walk, having an office 10 minutes walk or wherever from the place. I think that's not a good rule. I've got one place that is on a residential. It is 1 meter from a commercial zone. So that drives me nuts.
Commercial, you could get the ryokan license, is what you're saying.
Correct. Yeah. But here in Japan, as you know, there is no wiggle room. The rule is the rule is the rule. Even though I've been a good host, paid my taxes, submitted all my documents, and I'm bringing in lots of money to the communities, I buy the lantern at the Matsuri, and I have really deep ties to all the other small businesses, and that's part of my business, I see. And I make friends with the chonan. I make, and so I'm doing all the right things. Come on, guys.
For listeners who are pretty new to the space, so Minpaku is basically private lodging. Is that what the term means, right?
Yeah, Minpaku came into the lexicon. I'm a dictionary maker, remember?
Okay.
To the lexicon in 2003.
Oh.
It's a combination of the minshuku and
Shukuhaku.
Thank you. So minshukus have been around forever, and then shukuhaku is accommodation. So it's become a new word. They combine different kanjis together. People have been able to stay in minshukus.
What are minshukus? Actually don't know. Are they
Well, it's kind of like a family farm. Think about it as when people were roaming around and going from town to town, and with places where there were no hotels. There's ryokans, which is sort of leisure places with onsen and food and whatever, and there's pensions, which is sort of the next level down. But minshukus are more like you're renting a B&B, or you're renting a room in someone's farmhouse,
like an inn. Like an old-timey inn.
It is, but it was more of a rural thing. It's more of a, like I said, you're moving around and you just need a place to stay. So you room with a family, for example.
Okay, Tracey. Is hotel license really that much better than Minpaku license? 365 days, but it probably comes with a bunch more rules, right?
Cutting in here, ryokan equals hotel license for people who aren't aware.
Well, and to be fair, there's different types of ryokan licenses as well. There's simple ryokan, which is one room or one dwelling, and then there's multi-room ryokans, which are need a front desk, and you've got a building with 10 or more rooms. And then there's another one which is a share house dormitory license. So each of those are different. The one where you would imagine that has a front desk, and that has to have a 24-hour front desk, and that's like a normal hotel ryokan. What I have is a simple ryokan, which is one room or one house, if you can get it. It just means that you don't have to report every 2 months. It means that when you list on the OTAs, it doesn't go dark at 180 days. You'll be able to get the bookings until the next fiscal year. And also, it's handled by a different part of the government, which means that they're a bit more chilled. If I ever had to show my inner workings, like if I had to ever show that I'm collecting my passports, if I ever had to show the IDs of the people who were staying, I could, but I don't have to submit that to the government every 2 months. That's all.
Again, for listeners here, there's a couple different license levels. So
Yes.
the Ryokan license is our hotel license, which is more loose. You can rent for 365 days a year in some of these licenses. There's the Minpaku license, which is almost synonymous with like short-term rental license, where you're limited to 180 days depending on ward. Or
in some wards, weekend only. And some of those weekends are Friday to Sunday, and some of them are Friday to Monday. In some wards, it is also school holidays only, as Joey has discovered. It's zone dependent and street dependent. Street to street is sometimes different as well. So,
There's rules everywhere here.
Learn the rules and then smile and follow them.
So Tracey, put in the hat on of a customer.
Yes.
Obviously overwhelmed at this point with all these terms,
Correct.
all these rules. Let's role play here. I want to buy an Akia in Japan and I want to run it as on Airbnb. You get that question a lot here. How do you respond to that?
My first question is why? And that's not in a narky way or anything. It's just, what are your reasons for being here? Because it won't be for yield. You've got to have...
Nice. Great
It won't
point.
be just for monetary yield. What is your non-monetary yield? That has to make sense as well, right? If you're looking for a pure investment, it's too hard. There's easier investments, there's easier ways to make money. If it also contributes to another goal that you have, be that as in you want a place to come hang out, you want to build something beautiful, you're an artisan, there's so many opportunities. If that also meets that need and you want to make a little bit of money to support yourself, a little bit of money, like you want to have a business as well, or you want to make a visa out of it, whatever, then that is the first hurdle. The next hurdle is where. The next hurdle is who's going to stay, who's going to be your customer. And then the next hurdle is, have you created a product that matches the customer? So product customer match. And then how much are you going to sell it for? And does that money match what your financial goals are? Due diligence, always.
You nailed it. In our experience, we went in bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, be like, we bought this house in Beppu. It's like 2 years later, we're still renovating it. We're still making sure it has fire curtains and electric.
We tell people the same thing, Tracey, that like you need a different reason. Like someone comes asking us about ROI and we're kind of like, we've made no money. You have to have a different reason. And that other reason needs to be very strong.
Yes.
Like stronger than the ROI one, I believe.
Look, don't get me wrong. I love being here and I'm not trying to say don't come. This is a great place, but come with your eyes wide open. Whatever preconceptions you've got about ROI or about how real estate works in your country, leave it at the water's edge. Come in and enjoy, but you've got to learn. If you try to push your preconceived ideas into this, you'll just keep hitting brick wall after brick wall and you will be very demoralized. But if you come here just like, let's see what happens and let's work with what we've got, have fun and have an adventure, that's the right attitude to come in. If it's like, I need to make money, I'm like a money bro and like I need yield and it's a vanity metric, yeah, like I'm sure that happens. I just don't know how to help you.
Another average customer kind of take is they want to buy a vacation home.
Yep.
They want to put on Airbnb just to keep the water running.
Yep.
For those type of customers, would you recommend going the Minpaku route, maybe monthly rentals? What would you say to them?
It depends on where. And also depends on your property manager. So you're going to be out of town. You need to have a great property manager who is going to look after everything while you're away and also look after the guests while they're here. But before you buy your holiday home, you really need to make sure that it can be licensed and there is a good property manager in the area. This works really well if you're going into an established, say, ski resort. They're not cheap, but you get to come and have a ski holiday. And those ski resorts have a well-managed machine for handling guests. Beach resorts to a lesser extent, but still the same. Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto, fine, absolutely great. Rural areas take a bit like, they're not an automatic yes. You should know where you're going anyway, because each community has a different vibe and I'm sure you talk about this all the time, but you can't just plop yourself into Goomba and like go, hey, I'm here. And like I'm going, yeah, okay, well done. So you really have to know where you're going and why you're going there, and also what infrastructure is already there. If you can get a Minpaku license, I would. Second choice is getting a monthly rental. The problem about monthly rentals is that there's no marketplace, right? There's no central place where you can advertise. You can't list. This is really important information. You cannot list an unlicensed property on Airbnb or booking.com or any of them. So there's gone. Like, you know, you're going to have to work super hard just to get monthly rentals, unless you've got a whole bunch of family and friends who are going to pay you to come and stay for a month. That's a different kettle of fish. But having a license means that it's a more attractive prospect for a good property manager to take you on. That's when you're going to be making money. And 180 days is great, because if that means, I have a lot of clients like this. They have their house, it's licensed, they get to use their house for 6 months of the year. Fabulous. And then for the other 6 months of the year, they're making, you know, good yield.
Have you seen people get a visa out of this? Like, sometimes we see some dreamers who are like, buy the house, Airbnb it, and then use that to get the visa. Have you seen that before?
I haven't seen it. I know that there's a couple of people who do advise on that, and that's probably a bit above my pay grade. It depends on the area, and I think you have to live in the property as well. I did see some interesting folks. They're running a honey farm, and they were running a
Shikoku, right? Or maybe
and it's like they built a lifestyle, but they were on like one of the niche, like the what's that trail, like the
Nakasendo, probably. Yeah.
I don't know much. Don't know. I'm first to admit I'm shocking with Japanese history and geography. I live in this little really weird bubble. But yeah, so that's really popular for pilgrims and people that are going that way. And they've really tapped into a niche. They've built a beautiful lifestyle for themselves. They have customers who love them. They've also got some side hustles with honey, and they eat granola every day, and they're like happy days. They're so happy, and they've got a YouTube channel, and I'm sure people can find them, but they're absolutely living their dream life. So yes, it's possible. I don't know the mechanics of getting that.
Our listeners are, let's say they still want to go for the Minpaku. They're like, I want to hire Tracey. Tracey, what do you cover? What are your services? Where do you cover? What do you do?
Sure. I help people with a little bit of mindset, a little bit of real talk. I don't want to burst people's bubbles, but I also want people to go in with their eyes wide open and tell you what you can expect. And I'm not the only person, I think what people should do is talk to as many people as possible, listen to as many podcasts as you can, and then figure out what's right for you. So I'm just one of those voices. I help people figure out their mindset. Is this life for you? It's not a passive job. People are having great experiences buying properties and putting them on long-term rental. They're making share houses, or they're making whatever. So there's different opportunities depending on what the individuals want, and I'm happy to be that sounding board. And if you've got some really good ideas, bounce them off me and tell you how, if I think that's a viable option, or that you should talk to this person or that person. So that's how you can work with me. I've also got a due diligence pack. I help people run their numbers and let them know if it's actually a smart thing to do. And also what I do actually is I help people design their ideal guest strategy. So this is all the checklists that you need to set up, and then also some tools, like if you buy this, put it in this spreadsheet, and then it collects everything up. I'll give people some tools on how to do it themselves. If you want me to do it for you, I'm certainly open to it, and I can give you my rates. But I've also got this due diligence pack, which is like, what is it, $97 or something, and it has a lot of these things in it that people can do it themselves. And it's got these like glossaries on what the zonings are and what the Japanese is, and also what steps they have to follow, and then who they should be talking to at each step.
Let's say I want to buy something in Tokyo. I want to rent it out. Yep. You mentioned you don't do the licensing in particular, but you do the project management or even post management.
I do a lot of that actually. So there's people that I help who live abroad, and they're renovating their place. So I'm doing the project management. I'm talking to the renovators, and I'm just collecting their mail and paying bills and doing that stuff while they're abroad, and then managing the renovations, and then also managing the scrivener, like the Shoshoshi, who's actually doing the paperwork. And so I'm kind of like the central hub. And then sometimes I take that customer on in my property management business. That's two different businesses. There's like my Minpaku business, my Tokyo Family Stays, and then there's the consulting side. So if that's a good fit for both people, then I take them on in my portfolio. Or if it's not a good fit, it just means that their ideal customer is just not a match with my ideal customer. But I can assist and building that strategy for you, because there's a key for every lock, right? Like the people that come and stay with my places are very different to, say, you know, a premium customer or a digi nomad or whatever. It's like I need to look after my customer, but then there's different types of people coming into Japan.
I remember talking to Anton Warman a while ago, and he's like, Tracy's the number one hustler I know in Japan. You got such an entrepreneurial spirit. What's the next business? Me and Joey are always thinking, like, what do we do? Do we make an incense business or something? Like, what's on top of your mind? What do you think there's opportunity for?
I can't talk about it. I've got some things in the work that I can't talk about. But yeah, I've always got an idea. As I have a 50 million ideas a day, I act on some of them. Some of them are just bubbling away in the background. You know, I love real estate. Interestingly, there's a business I really want to do, and that's actually coin laundries. And
coin laundry, let's do it.
I want a cash business too.
I want to do a linen service and a coin laundry service. That would be real, like, because I'm too small for the big linen rental companies, and also because my places are all spread out, I have to wash my linen on site. It's a beast for me to do. So I would love to set it up with coin laundries and like wash and fold service, you know, specifically for people my size. But again, that's time and effort. But if someone wants to come help me, I'll give them the business idea and like be their advisor, and then they can run with it. Happy day.
Tracy, Joey's been talking about a cash business, Jito Hanbaiki business. I think a coin laundry business is interesting.
Because it's all the stuff is all rented, right? I've seen some amazing coin laundries that have like a coffee shop in them and a TV and you know, and like free Wi-Fi. There are coin laundries here that blow my mind. If you go to a coin laundry and you put your phone number in, it will text you when the wash and dry is done.
I have not used one like that. That sounds cool though.
Really cool. On that mic drop moment.
Boom. All right, Tracy. Well, thank you so much for being here. Where can people find you? Where do you want people to contact you?
I'm hardly a woman of mystery. I'm sure you're going to put it in the show notes.
Will do.
And find me. My business is called Tokyo Family Stays. Who I serve, what my customer is, and where I am is built right into my brand. I'm a branding and marketing nut. So yeah, Tokyo Family Stays, but also I'm in Yoyogi. Like I'm in between Shibuya and Shinjuku. Come for a cup of tea. My door's always open.
I'll see you at the next Mexican taco party we have too. So.
Yeah, buddy. Yay.
Cool. Awesome, Tracy. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, appreciate you being on here.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Buying a House in Japan. If you find the show helpful or at least entertaining, give us a 5-star rating. It takes 5 seconds and really goes a long way.
If you or someone you know is looking for a Japanese home, check out akiyamart.com, our English-friendly site that lets you browse over 500,000 listings. That's akiya-mart.com to find your dream home in Japan.
If you've got questions or feedback, drop us a line. Email contact@akiyamart.com. You can also find us on Instagram as well as TikTok, where we post properties, tips on the home buying process, and updates on our own purchases and renovations.
Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week.